Imagine you are the president of Russia. Your name is Vladimir, and the West, be it the USA or the European Union, can't stand you. They constantly spread negative propaganda about you, saying whatever they can to tarnish your image. You've launched an attack on Ukraine, and in response, they've labeled you as a pariah state. A pariah state refers to a country that has been widely ostracized by the international community due to its actions, policies, or behavior. The West is imposing heavy sanctions on you, isolating your economy, and even issuing an arrest warrant against you through the International Criminal Court. In this situation, if I were to ask you what you would want to do mentally, your response might be, you'd aim to convince the entire world that you're unaffected, that the moves they're making against you are trivial in your eyes. If you were in Vladimir's position, you'd probably think in this exact way. Now, the question is, how would you show the world that you're not under pressure? What would your strategy be? You'd invite the world's top leaders to your country, host them, and engage in discussions to show them and the entire world that you're genuinely unbothered by the pressure. In reality, Russia has done exactly this. By hosting a major summit, they've projected strength and composure. From October 22nd to 24th, Russia organized the BRICS summit in the city of Kazan. This wasn't just a meeting of a few BRICS nations. Beyond the core BRICS members, many countries from Asia, Africa, and Latin America also participated, expanding the platform significantly. In total, leaders from 36 countries, including emerging economies, attended this summit. Even the Secretary General of the United Nations was present. During this three-day summit, BRICS formally welcomed 4 new members: Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates. Leaders from nations like China, India, Turkey, and Iran, along with nearly 20 other representatives, gathered at this event. They discussed various critical issues, including how to establish a multipolar global order, where no single country or superpower can dominate the entire world, ways to bypass Western-led systems and create an independent international payment system, strategies for resolving ongoing conflicts in the Middle East. These discussions encompassed a wide range of topics. And which country hosted this monumental event? Russia. Russia is touting this summit as one of its most significant foreign policy achievements to date, showcasing its growing influence on the global stage. A consultant named Nick Ward, who is a co-founder of a firm called Pijari, shared his insights on the summit. According to him, the key takeaway from the event is that the West's efforts to isolate Russia have failed. He added that this summit sends a powerful message from Russia to the West. It demonstrates that Russia has effectively handled the sanctions imposed on it. While it may not be possible for Russia alone to oppose Western powers, the summit revealed an important political truth: the number of countries responding to Russia's call and willing to partner with it. This clearly shows who Russia's allies are in the current global landscape. Before diving deeper into this, let me first explain the concept of BRICS in simple terms. BRICS is essentially a coalition of non-Western countries formed to challenge the economic and political dominance of Western nations. The group aims to counteract the monopoly-like global systems led by the West, such as the World Bank, the G7, or even the United Nations Security Council. BRICS countries seek to create alternatives to these institutions, providing a platform that reflects their perspectives and priorities. The group was initially founded in 2006 with 4 countries: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. In 2009, they held their first summit, and a year later, South Africa joined the bloc. The name BRICS comes from the initials of its member nations: B for Brazil, R for Russia, I for India, C for China, S for South Africa. These 5 countries meet annually at a summit, hosted by one of the member nations, taking turns in organizing the event. Now you know the 5 core countries of BRICS. However, in the 2023 BRICS Summit, several other nations were invited to join, including Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. These countries had previously applied to become members of BRICS. Among them, 4 have officially joined as members, but Saudi Arabia has not yet formalized its membership. Nonetheless, Saudi Arabia participated in the summit as an invitee. At the same time, Argentina, a South American nation, was also invited. However, Argentina declined the invitation. The newly elected president, Javier Milei, pledged to strengthen ties with the West and align the country more closely with Western policies, which likely influence this decision. As you can see, financial power plays a significant role in global politics. Now, let me explain what BRICS has been doing in the realm of economics and its impact on the global stage. The effectiveness of BRICS economic mechanisms, such as the New Development Bank, NDB, and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement, CRA, is an essential point of discussion. These 2 financial frameworks were established as alternatives to the Western-led Bretton Woods system that emerged after World War II. What is the Bretton Woods system? The Bretton Woods system ensured that global reserves were predominantly held in US dollars. This made the US dollar the primary reserve currency, with other countries' currencies being pegged or compared to it. This system gave the United States immense financial dominance globally. The influence of the dollar allowed the US to wield significant control over international trade, economics, and geopolitics. Why is BRICS challenging this system? Many nations, particularly in the global South, developing or underdeveloped countries, believe that Western institutions like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, have failed to address the needs of poorer nations. These institutions are often criticized for imposing policies that favor Western interests over genuine development for the recipient countries. The NDB and CRA were designed by BRICS to provide alternative avenues for funding and financial stability, reducing reliance on the Western-dominated system. When it comes to climate financing, even the United Nations Secretary-General has pointed out that international systems primarily benefit wealthy nations. Historically, during the Bretton Woods Agreement negotiations, not a single African country had a seat at the table. This highlights a critical issue. The system was created by a select few nations to serve their interests, and then the rest of the world was expected to comply. This systemic exclusion has led to frustration among countries in the global South, as they feel left out of decisions that shape the global financial order. BRICS' alternative approach to counter this imbalance, BRICS is working on developing its own systems. One such initiative is the Contingent Reserve Arrangement, CRA. Each BRICS country has its own central bank, and together they have agreed on the CRA framework. Here's how it works. If any BRICS nation faces an economic crisis, this arrangement allows member countries to provide financial support to the struggling nation. However, this mechanism is currently limited to BRICS countries, focusing exclusively on mutual assistance within the bloc. This initiative underscores BRICS' intent to create a parallel system, one that doesn't rely on the traditional Western-dominated structures. On the other hand, the New Development Bank, NDB, primarily serves BRICS countries and other developing or emerging economies. The focus of the NDB is on financing large-scale infrastructure projects, such as bridges, and promoting sustainable development and clean energy projects. The NDB has already approved more than $32 million for projects related to clean energy, transportation, and COVID recovery efforts. The presence of Palestinian president at the event. Given the ongoing oppression and injustice that Palestinians face due to the support of the US and Western nations, Palestine sees BRICS as a potential alternative platform. The Palestinian president made it clear during his speech that now is the time to address the injustices faced by Palestinians. However, critics argue that for BRICS, this is a major challenge. The member countries themselves have internal differences, especially concerning relations with the West. Despite being members of the same group, there are still deep divisions between countries like China and India. These two nations, despite being part of the same bloc, often face challenges in agreeing on major issues, making consensus difficult. Additionally, countries like Brazil and South Africa face significant economic challenges compared to China and Russia, who are dominant economic powers within the group. These disparities mean that countries like Brazil and South Africa cannot match the economic might of China or Russia. These differences within BRICS, especially between China and India, are important to note in terms of economic unity and cohesion, as emphasized by experts like Jim O'Neill. The attempt for true cooperation between countries like India and China within BRICS is a continuous challenge. The rivalry between India and China is well known, and these tensions create significant hurdles in terms of collaboration within the group. It's not just India and China. Egypt and Ethiopia have also had long-standing disputes, particularly over water resources, similar to the water-related tensions between Bangladesh and India. Furthermore, Iran and Saudi Arabia, two nations that have joined BRICS, have a history of regional rivalry in the Middle East. These two nations have been longtime competitors, making cooperation in BRICS more complex. Despite this, Iran has already become a member of BRICS, and Saudi Arabia is expected to join soon, further complicating the dynamics of the group. Many BRICS members are fundamentally dealing with various internal and external issues. Given this, it's difficult to predict that the group will agree on every matter, as pointed out by analysts. The recent BRICS summit, however, had a clear goal: Putin's role in trying to manage these internal disputes and attempt to bring the countries together, despite the challenges. Moreover, the summit aimed to send a message to the West, showcasing that Russia's influence is expanding beyond its previous limitations. With the continued rise of BRICS and the new members joining, Russia's reach is indeed growing. In this regard, Putin's leadership can be seen as successful in shifting the power dynamics, showing that despite challenges, BRICS has become an alternative force to the Western-dominated systems. To understand the current developments, let me update you with some key points. India and China have started implementing a new border agreement, particularly in the eastern Ladakh region. Both countries are now disengaging their military forces, meaning that their soldiers are being pulled back from the face-to-face positions they had held previously. An Indian government official stated that both sides have already started withdrawing their troops from the last remaining points, namely Depsang and Demchok areas, where they were facing each other. This move was part of a commitment made by both nations to resolve the issue by the end of October. The disengagement process was completed recently, and during the Indian festival of Diwali, soldiers from both sides even exchanged sweets, which was a significant and symbolic gesture of goodwill between the two military forces. Interestingly, this development took place during the BRICS summit in Russia, which facilitated an important diplomatic opportunity. It marked the first official talks between President Xi Jinping of China and Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India in the last 5 years. This recent move to pull back troops in Ladakh has historical significance, as such disengagements had previously taken place 2 years ago. Ironically, India, despite being one of the most Western-aligned countries in BRICS, has benefited from the expansion and evolution of this group. The expansion of BRICS offers India a significant advantage in the current global power dynamics. In contrast, India is currently facing tensions with Canada, which has been trying to align itself with Western powers such as the United States, United Kingdom, and other G7 nations. This alignment could work against India, which is concerned about potential sanctions or political fallout, especially given the current geopolitical shifts. This context highlights how BRICS is playing a role in global diplomacy, balancing tensions between the West and other emerging powers, while also managing internal challenges within its member states. India is currently facing significant concerns regarding Canada and its Western allies, particularly because of ongoing geopolitical tensions. These fears are heightened due to India's position in the Quad, an alliance between the United States, Japan, Australia, and India, primarily formed to counter China's influence in the region. Given this, India has always been cautious of China's power and intentions. However, following recent developments, India and China have seen a notable shift in their relationship. While they were on the brink of conflict not long ago, the border disengagement agreement has brought a sense of stability. This shift is particularly important for China, as India's membership in both the Quad and BRICS creates a complex situation. On one hand, India aligns with Western powers, but on the other hand, it is also a key player in BRICS, where the dynamics of cooperation with Russia and other emerging economies shape its position on the global stage. Despite the historical rivalry between India and China, especially with decades of border disputes, this recent agreement has changed the narrative. China views India's potential alignment with both the Quad and BRICS as a balancing act, and this creates a level of discomfort within China. However, if the relationship between the two countries continues to improve, the previous concerns of direct confrontation might subside. India is unlikely to target China directly, focusing instead on broader regional and global cooperation. It's worth noting that even with these evolving relationships, the India-China border agreement may not be permanent, and there are still uncertainties. But the fact that India, traditionally seen as a counterbalance to China, is now engaging in dialogue and making strides to stabilize relations, especially amid global shifts, signals significant geopolitical changes for both countries. Moreover, with China remaining India's largest trade partner until recently, with the US now surpassing that position, there are both economic and diplomatic considerations that will play into their future dynamics. The growing tensions within India's relationship with Canada and other Western nations are also contributing to the complexity of these global alliances and alignments. The evolving dynamics within BRICS and its member states, particularly with countries like India, China, and newer entrants such as Egypt, and the UAE illustrate a complex strategic balancing act. These nations, including India, have historically maintained strong bilateral ties with many of the points of the BRICS countries. For example, India shares a positive relationship with Egypt and the UAE, and has deep, long-standing connections with several African nations. These relationships are not mere coincidences, but the result of strategic diplomacy that seeks to establish influence in key global regions, especially as BRICS continues to gain relevance. Despite the growing strength of BRICS, the reality is that it is still in the process of developing into a fully cohesive and competitive force against Western-led global systems. However, the recent BRICS summit has shown that this group is gradually gaining the necessary influence to challenge existing power structures. Countries like Russia, China, and India are now seriously considering BRICS as a viable alternative to the established global order, particularly when compared to other global alliances they are part of. In the long run, BRICS is emerging as a platform that could potentially alter the balance of power, not just in terms of economic influence, but also politically, by offering an alternative to the West's dominance. India's involvement in BRICS, alongside its role in Quad, reflects the country's strategic positioning on the world stage, balancing relationships with both Western allies and emerging economies. The BRICS nations' combined economic might, particularly as China and India continue to grow, positions the group as a key player in global geopolitics, challenging the traditional Western-dominated financial and political systems. Thank you for sharing this insightful discussion. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to subscribe to stay updated, and don't forget to hit the bell icon for notifications. Take care, stay well, and I hope to see you in the next video. Allah Hafiz.